What's up, gaming heroes? Welcome back to another awesome MMO video. My name is Erosium, and in today's video we're going to be looking at 10 reasons you should get excited for Ashes of Creation. This game has so much potential, it is actually unreal. Every MMO out there right now is just trying to copy World of Warcraft's MMO monetization strategy, and unfortunately it just doesn't hold up in today's gameplay focused type games. And this is what I love about Ashes of Creation, is that they're taking a step away from that carbon copy of that and going in their own direction, changing their philosophy of what an MMO should be all about. And this is such an exciting, breathtaking thing to see. The game itself is made by a gamer, so we can be sure that these decisions aren't getting made by a board of directors. They're getting made by people who actually want to play the game that they're making. This is going to create a game as an overall which is just so much more fun and player driven, rather than a game that, is just going to pump as much money as they can out of us. Alright, let's get into the 10 reasons. The lore. There's a lot to the lore, so I'll briefly cover it in this video with a further detailed video to come in the future. There's this, honestly, I could go on about for literally hours because of the amount of research out there that you can look into, which is quite incredible in all honesty. I've never seen such a diverse Wikipedia for a game that's not even out yet. It shocks me. The story of creation tells us of a race known as the Ancients, created in the likeness of the 10. 10 imbued all of their qualities into one race to stewardship over all creation. The power of the Ancients grew, and the rift divided the 10 in how to accommodate their new creation. 3 of the 10 separated from the others and began to teach the Ancients the secrets of the essence. When the 7 learned of this, great celestial battle ensued. Eons passed, and you watched as the fight continued. Some say it was this fight that created the stars and the heavens that we see today. With every blow struck between the 10, Star was born. When the battle was complete, the others and the Ancients were banished by the 7 into the void. The 7 found the error of their ways and decided to split their qualities into 4 races instead of 1. This is how the humans, the elves, the orcs, and the dwarves came to be. Watch as the 7 create Vera and place each of these races into their respective locations. As the story came to an end, a dark figure at the distance grew closer to you until all you could see is darkness and you wake up in sweat. There's a lot more to this, but we'll look into it in the future. Classes and archetypes. At the start of the game, you can choose basically one of 8 classes. Now, it doesn't just stop there. They're your main class. That's basically defines what your role is going to be within the game. If you're playing a rogue, you might play as DPS. If you're going to play as a healer, you play as a healer. If you're going to play as a tank, you play as a tank. Now, going off that, you can change slightly how your class operates by choosing your secondary archetype. Now, your secondary archetype basically changes the way you might interact with the world. I'll look into that more in just a second. The game operates on basically the holy trinity of class identity. So you have some pride in who you are in the game. It gives us quite unique options. There's up to 64 different class combinations you can create, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So that means that like a meta of the game might not exist so much, because a lot of the classes are very similar in playstyle, and you'll be able to basically do everything as any class, hopefully. Obviously, this is an MMO, so that a lot of the gameplay will be targeted around grouping up with people and doing it together. As an example, one of the classes that got me really excited was the Shadow Lords. The Shadow Lords is basically a rogue combined with a warlock, or like a summoner. And that can basically summon weapons to fight for them. And, you could be a rogue whilst having weapons fighting alongside you. Or you could be a rogue healer, known as a cultist. Freaking cool is that, right? So you could literally, be a rogue, but also heal yourself and things like that. Or you could be, if you're feeling extra roguey, you could go rogue for the extra roguiness. There's so many awesome creations like this. I wonder what a rogue hunter would be like, or a hunter warrior. There are some awesome creations you guys should check out. We'll be looking to that in a future video as well, because there's so much I want to explore with that. And there's a lot of information out there that I think would be really interesting to go over. Player housing In Ashes of Creation, you have player housing, and you can purchase apartments, freeholds, and static housing. Now, static housing apartments, they might be within a city, so if that city goes under siege and eventually it breaks down, then obviously you lose your apartment or your city. You might get some of your resources back, but as an overall, that player home will have to move. Freeholds are static housing, so this is something that, no one will be able to tear down and stuff like that. That's somewhere you can lay your hat. That's all yours to yourself. You don't need to worry about anything. Freeholds are like a better, well-rounded version of WoW's Garrison. It's not just designed to, pump out resources for you. It's actually a place designed to be, a home, somewhere you can do some farming, some fishing, use your crafting stations, do some animal husbandry. If you want to like breed some of your mounts together or stuff like that, you can do that. World nodes, encompassing each of the servers, are basically 118 world nodes. Now, these world nodes will obviously develop, and there are basically different certain types of nodes that can exist. There's one divine node, there's 2 economic nodes, there's 3 military nodes, there's 4 scientific nodes. Now, depending on what type of like gameplay interests you the most at that given time you're playing, will really drive basically the push as to what node you're kind of like go towards. For myself, I love like making gold in games, so I'll probably go towards like the economic nodes and really push for that. And a lot of like how that node develops will depend on how much gold is being generated there, and that will really push the player development of the world changing around you. Now, before we get into like the PvP reason, I really want to just say this game isn't as casual as you might think. Okay, World of Warcraft has taught a lot of players that it's kind of cool just to be a casual player that doesn't do any like high-end content. And I'm not saying you have to do high-end content, but this game is very much driven by change and pushes you to get involved in all aspects of gameplay. For those players that want to get involved in the active change, the active development of a game, this is going to be the right game for you, basically. And I think that's awesome because it means that players earn their rewards. Not everyone just gets a reward for turning up. I'm sick of that, dude. I'm sick of turning up to the race and everyone gets, a first place. I'm sick of turning up to the race and everyone gets a first place prize. No, I work hard on a game. I want to get that satisfaction of achieving something, or I want to feel the sting of failure as I strive to achieve it, but I failed. I love that because that pushes me to be a better player, pushes me to work harder to achieve what I want to achieve. And that's so awesome. As I mentioned already, PvP in Ashes of Creation is like the catalyst of change. So anytime that a player wants to change something, another player might not want it to change. And so you have to like fight it out and duke it out to get that change. So for example, if there's a siege, these players, there'll be players in the castle and then there'll be players outside the castle and doing the siege, which is really interesting. There are many reasons to engage in open world PvP for Ashes of Creation. That being said, it isn't a PvP fest because basically higher levels can't bully lower levels because they will get what's called corruption. There's a whole system based on that that's yet to be fully developed, but I will look into that in a future video because there's so much about it. The caravans, the sieges, guild wars, hunting grounds, and scarce resources will drive that type of PvP. There's so much to be said about PvP in Ashes of Creation. I really can't just cover it in this video, but that gives you a little bit insight as to why you should get excited for it. Now, economy. Economy is really interesting with Ashes of Creation because it's all regional, it's not global. Most MMOs like World of Warcraft and other MMOs like that, the economy is global. You go to an auction house, you can buy anything from anyone within like the UK, EU servers type thing, but in Ashes of Creation, it doesn't quite work like that. It's done on region. Not every region has an auction house. And the metropolis, which is like the highest form of a node, may choose to go for like having an auction house connected to another node, and that way you have a slightly bigger auction house. But basically, you'll be able to sell your materials, directly to players or use player shops. You can use obviously an auction house in given cities, but you might need to travel to another city to check their auction house. And I think that's great because it drives player engagement with the game. I've experienced this in another game called Banlords 2. Banlords 2, I wanted to get a really nice weapon or some nice armor. I'd have to check a few different cities, and that drove me to interact with the game more, getting to fight with, you know, other kingdoms and fiefs and things like that. So I think that's a really interesting choice that the creators have made. And they also have item decay, so people won't just be able to go material farming and then hold on to that material for months and months. Items will eventually decay and be worth slightly less as a result of that. This is to basically balance the economy and make sure that the value of gold doesn't massively decrease and go to just extraordinarily ridiculous numbers. This is obviously to combat the gold inflation. Developers are also considering using adaptive price points in merchant shops, and this is just to obviously stop people from getting scammed, like accidentally if they go to an auction house and accidentally buy something, you know, worth, you know, 500% more than it actually should be. It's to stop that type of shenanigans, you know, where someone's hard work might just go down the swanny. It's also to make it so that it's worth, like, say, for example, farming, like, say, wood. Let's say you farm wood, all right? You're a wood chopper. You're a lumberjack. You cut down some wood, and you're like, oh, I want to sell this wood. And you go to your city, and you're like, oh, wood's not worth a lot here. Huh. I wonder what it'd be worth in the desert where there are no trees. Let's go to the desert. Let's go to the desert city and see how much I can sell wood there. And for example, it might be worth a lot more. That adaptive price point might notice that and be like, yes, this is worth a lot more in this city. And as a result, you can sell it, like, make a bit more profit that way. That's just, you know, one of the kind of like ideas to take into consideration when it comes to adaptive price points. Saying for a long time, I wish World of Warcraft would have adaptive price points. I think that would have really helped the game, but it is what it is. Mounts are obtained through an early quest, so you don't have to wait to, like, you know, a high level to get a mount. You get a mount pretty quickly because they want you to travel across the world. They don't want you to be static and this is where you have to level. You've got to level here, and then you've got to go here, and you've got to level there, and then you've got to go there, and you've got to level there. You're supposed to travel throughout the world, and you engage in all forms of content throughout this world, which is really interesting and very adaptive to the player. Mounts can also be found in the wild and tamed through animal husbandry. There are different tiers of mounts, like going from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc. And depending on these tiers, you can get different skins, cosmetics for your mounts, which you can get in-game. You don't have to buy those from the shop. They've already came out and said that the shop isn't designed to push, you know, gameplay to be better. It's designed to just, you know, add extra cosmetic options if you want it. They're not going to try and, you know, take a ton of gold from you or take a ton of, like, real life money from you for this stuff. Everything can be just obtained from the in-game stuff. There are no boosts or any crap like that. There are ground land mounts, there are gliding jumping mounts, and there are royal flying mounts. Don't worry with flying. The flying, not everyone has flying, and when they have it, it might be temporarily. They might not have it for a long type thing, so don't worry about that potentially ruining PvP or anything like that. It won't be the case. Gliding jumping mounts looks really awesome, so you're able to jump off cliffs and not die. I love that idea. I think it's going to be really exciting seeing how people create these wacky creations with animal husbandry and, you know, breeding their mounts together and seeing what comes out. I think that's going to be really unique and fun to see. World map. The world of Vera. An in-game viewable world map which will have, you know, a fog over, so you actually have to go out and explore the world. Now you might be in like a tavern and some person just tells you there's a cave filled with kobolds and you know, you should go check that out. They send you out there to go check out this cave full of kobolds, only to find that it's actually a group of bandits who are basically trapping unsuspecting travelers and adventurers and stealing from them or killing them. So you got to kind of like decipher the information you gain and go and explore the world for yourself. When information is gathered or the player has successfully explored an area, points of interest are marked on the map. These are places you want to kind of specifically go to and have a look at. These points of interest are determined by the node's progression. So as more people are getting, you know, progress done in that node, you will basically get more points of interest and things you should check out, and maybe more quests and development and things like that, which would be really, really cool. Now, combat is really like difficult to talk about because there's so much, you know, development with combat currently. They're trying to create a combat system that works both on the tab targeting but also off the tab targeting, so you can actually like aim like your gun or your bow or things like that, or your magical abilities. But they also want to be able to use the tab targeting system. So I think they're trying to create almost a hybrid of that. It's really hard to look into this because they're changing it quite a lot, and it's developing, quite fluidly. They're quite a new company, so they're very agile to changes. If they need to make a change, Stephen Sharif will make that change, and he's very much in charge of the game, and doesn't need to have all these board meetings to make changes. He'll make whatever changes best for the game and the player experience. Combat is a very tactile system in the game. It needs to feel responsive, mobile, and fluid, so they don't want people to be struggling with how things work. They want it to feel just comfortable and easy for people to do, which I really feel will happen. And they're really working on this because it's the lead up to Alpha 1. They want the combat to be polished and, nice feeling. The main thing to bear in mind with this game, guys, the alpha and beta for most games are like the marketing stunts. For this game, it's not. They're not using the alpha and the beta as marketing stunts. These are legit. Like they actually want people to test the game. They've got quality assurance. They're trying to test the game themselves. They aren't just, doing a paid beta test. They legit want people to come and test the game, because that stuff is really what is affecting the game, what's going to improve the game as a whole. It's worth bearing that in mind. Now, this last point that will get you the most excited for the game, if you have at all any reservations, this is what I'm hoping will really open you up. Intrepid Studios was founded by Stephen Sharif and John Moore, passionate gamers and successful entrepreneurs who took their business and their passion for games, set out on a mission to make a gaming company that would build the games the players want, rather than having someone in a suit and tie at a board meeting deciding on what's the best way to pump money out of these gamers. They've got too much money. We need to take more of that money. Let's make a game and then slow the progression in the game, and then what we can do is sell them boosts. No. Stephen Sharif and John Moore are gamers themselves. They are making a game that is designed for the player. They are making a game that they want to play themselves. They are not trying to do a carbon copy of other games like, World of Warcraft or New World or, Black Desert Online, any of those shenanigans. They're actually creating a game that players want to just throw themselves into. There's going to be absolutely no box cost for this game. There's no box cost. There is a monthly subscription. That is so ballsy. Do you know how ballsy that is? Like, with World of Warcraft, we bought the game, but guess what? We can't play the game unless we pay for a monthly subscription. If we hadn't bought the game, we'd got no problem with cancelling a subscription and then coming back and then going back into the game and coming out and cancelling a subscription again. And that's what it's going to be like with Ashes of Creation. If the content isn't good, isn't being updated, people aren't going to pay a monthly cost. They'll pay it maybe 1 month, and then that's it. Then they'll come away from the game. They cancel the subscription if it's not good. So that is something that Stephen Sharif has come out and said, is they want to operate on that business model because A, they don't want to be greedy, and B, they want to push their developers to make the game as good as possible. And the only way to really do that is to basically make it so that the player base is dependent and works around them being updating the game correctly, keeping their player base interested. Problem is, with games like World of Warcraft, Blizzard can lose 30% of their players, as they have with Shadowlands, and still make more profit from people just buying mounts from the cash shop, which is kind of crazy. So all that insights in games like World of Warcraft is to get people to basically jump in, into like a new expansion or a new patch, get it all hyped up for like a couple months before, and then when it releases, everyone plays it for like a month solid, and then like another 30 to 50% of player base just quits. But the other player base that's stuck around basically buy cash shop things. So it's like a hype and flop strategy that they're using. Games like Ashes of Creation aren't going to be able to do that because of the simple fact that you don't have to buy the game. You can easily just cancel the subscription and come back at a later point if you so choose. They aren't operating on the cash shop side of things, so they can't just be like, oh, we got to do a hype and flop strategy. They've got to literally keep players playing because that's the way the game makes money. And this is brilliant for the players because it just means you're going to get better gameplay on a whole. Intrepid Studios have embraced basically an open, transparent development approach. So they're literally just sharing everything on their YouTube channel for Ashes of Creation. A lot of these clips came from Ashes of Creation, you know, and it's so awesome to see 4K resolution videos of a game that's in Alpha 1 development. That's insane. You never see that. That's really ballsy, and I love seeing it. Something that Steven said that I think is really good, and I'll be reacting to a video like this in the future. But I don't answer to a board. I don't answer to a publisher. We answer to our players. And we try to be as transparent as possible with showing progress and showing it in a timely manner. Stephen Sharif. I think we live in an age where it's easy to be transparent if you're not trying to hide something. The downside is if you're showing something that's not a completed or finished product, it is incumbent upon the viewer to understand that fact. There are obviously going to be aspects of the development that we will not reveal, like lore and some system mechanics, in order to not spoil the game before release. So there you go, guys. This is the game I really feel the most attached to. I really feel that I'm going to be playing a lot of. I don't want to say it's the WoW killer because it's a different game to World of Warcraft. And, you know, there's a lot of casuals in World of Warcraft that might not, you know, be able to enjoy Ashes of Creation as much. But I think those that are really, you know, passionate about MMOs as a whole, like the PvE, PvP, gold making, everything like that, I think Ashes is going to be an incredible game for you. And I think this is going to change the face of MMO games as a whole. I think as World of Warcraft gets more competition, and, you know, Black Desert gets more competition, Final Fantasy gets more competition, I think that they will, and that they lose huge amounts of player base to games like Ashes of Creation. I think it will force them to change and adapt to improve their game rather than going for the you know, the hype and flop strategy. I think they'll go for more of a engaging player strategy where they're trying to make a game that is actually fun. And that's why we all signed up to Blizzard originally. They had like huge amounts of quality assurance once upon a time, and that made for a really polished game when it came out with good systems. Nowadays that isn't the case. Nowadays you are paying for a beta test at the entire expansion. The only good time to play a game like World of Warcraft is in the last 3 months of an expansion, because all the systems at this point have been fixed. They've spent an entire 2 years, you know, adding systems to the game and then fixing them rather than giving you new content. And so hopefully that will encourage, you know, games like World of Warcraft to really buck up their ideas and improve what they're doing. Thanks very much for watching. I really hope you liked this video. There'll be loads more Ashes of Creation content coming in the future. Really hope you liked this video. If there's anything you want to add in the comment section, let me know. Please let me know in the comment section. If I got anything wrong, please let me know. I'll happily correct that in a future video. I doubt I did, because I did a lot of research on this, and I've got a lot more videos for Ashes coming in the future. I'm very excited. I have applied for the Ashes of Creation partner program. I'm really hoping I can get involved in that and potentially help with the alpha testing. It's going to be super good. This game's going to rock, guys. It's going to really rock. All right, thanks for watching. This is Erosium out, and I'll see you next time. If you want to support the channel, please check out the join button or check out my Patreon, which is kind of the best way to support me, as I get a much larger cut than I would, say, from you know, YouTube or anything else like that. So really appreciate any support you guys can give. Thanks for watching. This is Erosium out.